The IDF says it has killed more than 100 Hezbollah operatives during a ground offensive in southern Lebanon over the past week. This is Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu calls on the UN to withdraw its peacekeeping force from the border. He says Hezbollah is now using the UNIFIL troops as human shields. Our Middle East correspondent Ariel Osseran has the latest.
The IDF deepens its ground offensive against Hezbollah's entrenchment across southern Lebanon. For more than 2 weeks now, Israeli troops have been scanning border villages, uncovering numerous weapons caches and underground sites. Each bullet, rifle, and missile represent Hezbollah's ongoing violation of UN Resolution 1701.
We just raided a site that includes a hideout. Inside, we found 4 Cornet missiles, an AK-47, tactical helmets, and a vest, a crate with surveillance equipment, and a Quran, all ready for action.
הגיע הזמן שתוציא את יוניפיל ממעוזי החיזבאללה וממרחבי הלחימה. צה"ל ביקש זאת שוב ושוב, והוא נתקל בסירוב שוב ושוב, שכל כולו מכוון לתת חומת מגן אנושית למחבלי חיזבאללה. הסירוב שלך לפנות את חיילי יוניפיל הופך אותם לבני ערובה של חיזבאללה. זה מסכן גם אותם וגם את חיי חיילינו.
UNIFIL says its forces will maintain their positions, declaring that they respond to the United Nations Security Council, not to member states.
The conflict right now between Hezbollah and Israel is not only a conflict between the two countries. This is really turning very soon into a regional conflict with catastrophic impact for everyone. So the responsibility is with everyone, definitely with the parties.
Across the north, as we speak, in the city of Nahariya in northern Israel and elsewhere. Let's go up to Malkiah in the north of the country. Our correspondent Robert Swift is standing by. And Robert, we just heard in that report, we are now, after 2 weeks, getting a glimpse into just how much progress the IDF is making during that offensive in southern Lebanon.
That's right. As you say, we're up in Malkiah, which is in the eastern end of Israel's border with Lebanon. And we've been observing throughout the afternoon and evening a battle which has taken place. You'll not be able to see it now because the sun's gone down. But about 3 kilometres behind me, just on the other side of the Israel-Lebanese border, the village of Blid, where the IDF, from the sound of it, have been conducting close-quarters combat. There's been a lot of small arms fire, tank fire, as well as artillery and airstrikes backing up that combat there. And that is a snapshot of the kind of combat that's taking place in many of the villages along the Israel-Lebanese border. The IDF today saying an additional 25 villages inside Lebanon. The civilians in those areas had to evacuate. As combat, like we've seen here, continues at pace throughout much of the region. The IDF taking some casualties today. Around 25 IDF soldiers were reported wounded. This taking place in 2 separate anti-tank attacks.
What is the purpose of the UN's peacekeeping force in southern Lebanon? It's been on the border for 46 years now and has failed in its mission to enforce UN resolutions designed to keep armed groups out of southern Lebanon. Our Emma Siegel has this report.
Born out of conflict, the United Nations Interim Force in Lebanon, or UNIFIL, has been monitoring and mediating clashes between Israel and Lebanon since 1978. Following the end of Israel's Litani operation, UNIFIL was created to oversee the withdrawal of Israeli troops from southern Lebanon, while ensuring stability and security in the region. But just 1 year later, the then Israeli foreign minister expressed the country's disappointment in the force.
The United Nations forces in Lebanon are not really fulfilling our expectation.
Israeli expectations remained unfulfilled in the years leading up to 1982, as Palestinian terror groups entrenched themselves in the area, attacking Israel, setting the stage for Israel's 1982 invasion, known as the First Lebanon War. In 2000, after Israel withdrew from its South Lebanon security zone, the UN set up the Blue Line, an unofficial demarcation between Israel and Lebanon. Although UNIFIL was present, it proved ineffective in halting the 2006 Hezbollah cross-border attack, which sparked the 2006 Second Lebanon War. The UN expanded its mission under Resolution 1701 following the Second Lebanon War. This resolution called for southern Lebanon to be free of armed groups and allowed peacekeepers to be deployed along the border. The force was tasked with helping Lebanon's armed forces maintain a buffer between the two countries using 2 points, the Blue Line and the Litani River. UNIFIL began operating in the 410 square mile area, with 50 positions and a headquarters in the Lebanese town of Naqoura. And today, the organization has around 10,500 peacekeepers from 50 troop-contributing countries. But Israeli officials have long criticized UNIFIL for ineffectively demilitarizing the area. Despite the large peacekeeping presence, the Iran-backed terror organization Hezbollah has built up its military presence and stockpiled weapons near the border with Israel.
For years, Israel has warned the world that Hezbollah is violating international law and United Nations Security Council Resolution 1701, which prohibits the presence of armed militants and weapons in southern Lebanon.
Well, the United States has just confirmed it will be deploying its THAAD missile defense system to Israel. This despite a warning from Iran's foreign minister, who said the US will be putting its troops at risk by deploying the system to Israel. The system requires the deployment of some American troops to operate the system. Well, for more on that, we're joined by Colonel Rich Outson. He's a senior fellow at the Atlantic Council and a geopolitical consultant at Dragoman LLC. Thanks for being with us, Rich. So there had been some debate over whether or not the United States would deploy this system. How significant is this shift, do you think?
Well, I think it's important in two ways. The first is that it's another visual and practical evidence that the United States intends to protect Israel against the likely Iranian retaliation to the Israeli retaliation for the previous attack. And the second is that this is an asset that it's pretty rare asset in that there's only 7 batteries of the sort in the entire U.S. inventory. So sending one of those 7 is sending a precious resource. And of course, there's combat zones and crisis zones all over the world. So this is really quite an important thing. I personally think that even though Israel has a tremendous layered air defense system itself, that THAAD is a unique asset. It's one of the most advanced air defense systems in the world, and it kind of gives a clue about what sort of attack I think at least Washington thinks may be coming.
Welcome back. Iran's foreign minister continues his regional tour ahead of a much-anticipated Israeli strike in response to Tehran's October 1st missile attack on Israel. Abbas Araghchi is in Baghdad this Sunday. Iranian-backed militia in Iraq have warned that US bases in the country would be targeted if the US joins Israel in attacking Iran. Well, to talk more about all of that, we're joined by Entifad Kambar. He's the president and founder of the Kurdish Protection Action Committee and the former spokesman for the Deputy Prime Minister of Iraq. Good to have you with us, Entifad. Welcome. First of all, what kind of assurances will Mr. Araghchi be looking for during his visit to Baghdad today?
Well, Laura, good to be with you as always. Araghchi is basically using the U.S. administration's narrative of not spreading regional war, which is complete hypocrisy. He's been waging regional war and his terrorist country for the past 4 years against the state of Israel from 7 directions and all over the region.
About Iran's stronger ties with Russia, President Putin and President Pezeshkian met on the sidelines of a regional summit in Turkmenistan over the weekend. Iran exports drones to Russia for its war in Ukraine, and it is believed that Moscow is helping Tehran develop its nuclear program. At that summit, Putin said he wanted to create a new world order which would counter the West.